Hey everyone, the name is Erik Thor, and this is the 16 Personalities Guide to the Game of Thrones. So this is what your type needs to do to survive and thrive in the Game of Thrones, and perhaps even win the Game of Thrones. Starting with number one, ISFJ, the Ned. So the Ned is a Game of Thrones character known for honor and loyalty and for protecting and caring for family. Ned put family first in every situation. And ultimately, that's also why he fell and why he was not able to succeed. He was always going to put his moral compass above anything and his family, even at the risk of himself and even at the risk of his kingdom. So what you can see with Ned is high integrity, strength of ethos, and ethos, that's character. That's basically people look up to you. People think you're worth something. People think you are a redeemable person, somebody who has knowledge and cunning and strength and reputation to carry what you do. So sensing types have high ethos and introverted types have high integrity. Feeling types have high diplomacy, and we saw that with Ned as well. Finally, judging types are known for a great sense of strategy, and in this case, perhaps it was lacking a little bit, but he was a big player and he was somebody who was in control of and aware of a lot of events. And he did manage to succeed in keeping Jon Snow hidden, and he managed to play the game to the best for his family. Number two, ENFP, the SAM. So first, what we see in the SAM is a person who loves learning and studies, and somebody who is interested in medicine and history and all these topics. Often what we see with ENFPs is extroverted perceiving types have an eagerness to gather information and to know as much as possible. So your strength in the Game of Thrones is you know stuff. And beyond that, intuitives have one key trait in Game of Thrones, and that is magic, question mark, question mark, question mark. So when you're an intuitive in the Game of Thrones, there is a chance that you might have some kind of magical gifts or powers or supernatural talents. And in the Sam's case, it is that he is able to heal and that he is able to use medicine to do basically magic, what nobody thought possible. And hey, that's the wild card. Intuition is the wild card in Game of Thrones. Beyond that, when you're an extrovert, you have one key thing that is going to be a really big plus in the Game of the Thrones, and that is popularity. People like you, people know you, people have heard of you. So that's Sam's strength, that you are seen and you are noticed, and people know you exist, and people like you and have talked to you and have met you and have an idea of who you are. So that's always a plus when you're an extrovert. Beyond that, ENFPs have perceiving, and perceiving types, they are, and this is the interesting thing, often very useful. So usually, while they are not known for great strategy or planning, they are usually extremely useful. Like they can do a lot of things. They can improvise, they can think on the spot. They often have some kind of secret skill or talent that they can use that will make them valuable to other people. So the fact of the matter is you are valuable to other people, and other players are going to want to use you for their strength and for their success. The question is, who will you put your cards with? ISFP, the Sansa. So ISFPs are the Sansas of the Game of Thrones, often a bit idealistic and sometimes a bit naive, but always true to yourself. ISFPs are people that believe in honesty and truth, and that is also what is necessary in order to beat Littlefinger. And what we see with Sansa is she's able to tell apart lies from deceptions. After great maturity, she learns to recognize the difference between good and bad. Now, number four is probably the most favorite character of the Game of Thrones, and that is ENTP, the Tyrion. So Tyrians, they are players. They know the game. So the first thing you see with ENTPs is they know how to play the game. They know how people work. They know how to manipulate the game to their own benefit. And we see that with Tyrion all the time. While he is not a person who is necessarily good at strategy or tact, and not necessarily a person who knows to play his cards at the right time, he is a good card player. He is good at surprising people and throwing people off, and he is good at landing on his feet even when he falls. So while he suffers from, and this is something a lot of ENTPs struggle with, feelings of being a failure or feelings of not being good enough, he is a person who is always able to use his intelligence to make up for it and to make amends for it and to change his own fate and destiny. So here we see once again popularity, and once again, popularity doesn't have to mean that everybody likes you. It just has to mean that people know you and people want to talk to you for whatever reason. No matter if they like or dislike you, they want to talk to you. They want you to do things for them, and they want you to involve you in things. That's just the thing when you're an extrovert. Now, another favorite character in the show is the Arya, and Arya is probably a great example of ISTPs, and ISTPs are great Aryas. So your strength in the Game of Thrones as the ISTP is you know stuff. You're good at stuff. You're excellent at stuff. You're an expert in something. So often you're going to have some kind of special skill or talent that nobody else has. And you're going to have ethos that people know you're capable. People know you're going to come out on top. People know they can depend on you. So that's a big benefit for you as an ISTP. Integrity, of course, knowing who you are and knowing why you do what you do and holding true to your own values and beliefs. That's something I see in a lot of these introverted characters. And of course, understanding the game, not being betrayed or manipulated, not letting yourself be used. That's something that screams Arya. Now, INFJs. INFJs are best represented in the Game of Thrones as the Varys of the Game of Thrones. That means you are a person that often shows skill in strategy and subterfuge, and you also are a person that can hide from behind the shadows, and you can use that to your advantage. You're a person that has access to great information, more information than most. You know about things. And you know about a lot of different things, and you're able to use this and to talk to people and use this information for the best of everyone, or at least what you think is the best of everyone. ESTP, the Tormundir. So ESTPs, they are people that show great strength, and sometimes the problem with these characters is they think themselves to be immortal. So these characters, they think themselves to be completely untouchable. They think they can do anything or get around anything. Now, Tormund was somebody who had basically high popularity, somebody that everybody knew, somebody that everybody counted on, and somebody that everybody was able to depend on, but also somebody that was good at what he did and able to get things done. He was probably one of the most useful characters on the show because, during the show he was able to get a lot of things done and to deal with a lot of issues. Now, another interesting character is the Tivin. ENTJs are perhaps best represented as the Tivins of Game of Thrones. Now, some people think Tivin is an INTJ, and their arguments can go back and forth about fictional characters. I'm going to say ENTJ because he was very strong in himself and very assertive and very much secure in who he was. So ENTJs are typically what you say bulldozers, in that they can use power and strength and charisma to bully people around them. So this is something INTJs normally do not do. INTJs have a lot less command than ENTJs, and ENTJs have a lot better command. So they can command people, they can command others to get the job done, and they don't need to do it themselves. Something I noticed with judging characters in Game of Thrones is they don't actually do a lot themselves. Mostly they lead work to others. What they do is they are able to use others to get things done. So they are kind of the card players, while the perceiving types are more the cards, the actually useful pieces, to say it like that. Now, One I was a bit back and forth on, but landed on was ESFPs as the Jamie Lannisters. So somebody people like, somebody people look up to, somebody that is good with people and generally likable, but somebody who has a dark side. Somebody who is ultimately very useful. I mean, he's a knight and he is a strong fighter and he is a person who tends to land with his feet on top. Uh, these are all the ultimate traits and the reasons why I put him as an ESFP. His lack of strategy was another reason why I couldn't consider judging for him. Now, one point was INTPs. INTPs I put as the Cerseis of Game of Thrones, because while you can argue back and forth about J and judging and perceiving for Cersei, I think she was ultimately not a good strategist, but she was a good tactician. So she was a person who was able to read the cards that other people were dealing, and then she was able to basically turn those cards against people. So she was the best example of a character who did never let herself get used. She was always able to let people think they were in control, but in reality, she was always able to counter or come up with another solution or another strategy or another option that would let her win. So she was extremely reliable with her intellect and an extremely intelligent player. And she was one that was able to basically get a lot of things done that nobody thought possible. Another interesting character was the Margery, the ESFJ. So ESFJs are the Margeries of the Game of Thrones, using charisma and beauty and looks or personality in order to get ahead in society. So this is actually something that's very dangerous. I mean, she was a big player. One thing that got her down was, of course, Cersei, and of course the fact that she made a slight miscalculation. So she let perhaps emotions get the better of her, and in the end, she let this be her downfall. Now, her skill in diplomacy and strategy and her ability to win herself into the throne, that was very impressive. Then we have INTJs, of course. INTJs are best represented as the little fingers of Game of Thrones. So the people that are able to use great thinking and to use strategy to succeed in the Game of Thrones. Now, something should be said about Littlefinger and Tywin, because people often compare the two. Now, I want to say first, with Tywin, I see a lot more extrovert thinking. With Littlefinger, I see a lot more introverted intuition. So a lot more planning in Littlefinger and a lot more action and command in Tywin. So those are the two differences I see here in these two characters. Now, with Littlefinger, it was perhaps too much planning and too little action, because in the end, most of his strategies ended up as all talk. He had a plan, he had an idea, but he was never able to execute it and to get anything done. In reality, it was just notes written down on a paper. And yeah, that's a struggle for a lot of INTJs, getting your ideas out into action. So if you want to succeed in the Game of Thrones as an INTJ, make your plans more concrete. Now, ESTJs can be great angels and justice fighters, and they are extremely positive and important in our society. In Game of Thrones, it takes a bit of a more negative spin. ESTJs are perhaps best represented as the Joffreys of the Game of Thrones. So we see, similarly to in Tywin, a desire to instill command and fear and respect from other people through the use of force and his power. So we see him constantly use these things in order to succeed in life. So we see a person who relies on his renown and his name to instill fear and command. We see a person who commands respect and who is able to get it, even though probably he doesn't deserve it. And we see a person who understands the game. The problem is his youth and inexperience, and the lack of maturity, and perhaps, his twisted dark side, ultimately bringing him down. Now, one character of great debate is Jon Snow, and INFPs are, in my opinion, the most Jon Snow-like of all game 16 personalities. If an INFP would be in the Game of Thrones, I think they would play it out pretty much like Jon Snow does, refusing to be a leader, refusing to be in charge, saying no to power and corruption, being true to your ethics and values and moral compass, even if it makes you feel like shit, being a bit melancholy and being a bit broody and being a bit held back by your own integrity, having the magical ability to return from the dead, having the ability to uh, basically be universally liked because everybody knows and respects your integrity and respects your values and knows that you are actually morally right, even if they decide to ignore it. That's all what puts Jon Snow as an INFP. And last but not least, we have two characters. We have the ISTJs as the Briennes of Game of Thrones: dependable, trustworthy, respect-inducing, strategic, understanding, cunning, knowledgeable, and once most of all, never letting themselves be brought down to a low level, always remaining on the high ground. That's the power of the ISTJ. Finally, we have the ENFJ personality type, the Daenerys Targaryen. And I see people type her as an ENFP, and I see people type her as an INFJ. And without making a personal point of view in this discussion, I want to say, if an ENFJ would be in the Game of Thrones, I think they would play it much like Daenerys, relying on people and charm to get people over to her side, making sure that people like you, making sure that people see your point of view, but also not being afraid to stand up for what's right and speak out if you think people are wrong, and being very much extroverted feeling in the sense of believing that your morality, your point of view is the right one and that you are right in what you do. So ENFJs are in many ways embodiments of magic here. I mean, she literally is able to summon dragons, something nobody else is able to do, to her disposal and to use them for war. She is able to basically go from nothing to rise from ashes from nothing and to take what she wants. She is able to get her will, and she's able to speak out even for something completely impossible, for a vision or an idea that any realist in the Game of Thrones would think impossible. So that's the ENFJ strength. Now, these are the 16 personalities in the Game of Thrones. And first, I want to say thank you all for watching this video. And if you want more videos like this, let me know in the comments down below which TV show I should write up on next. Now, finally, I want to say thank you to all patrons and all YouTube members at patreon.com/Erik Thor. If you want to subscribe or donate, that really helps me a lot. So you can either subscribe at Patreon or you can click the YouTube button to become a member. Thanks everyone for watching, and see you all in the next video.